If you're watching this video right now, I'm willing to bet that you personally are seeking financial freedom in some form or fashion. And if that is the case, then I'm also willing to bet that you've probably heard a lot of different things from a lot of different people about this is the ultimate path to financial freedom. And I'm not going to do that in this video. Instead, I'm going to share for you my 2024, the last 12 months, every step of the way, the actions that I took that took me from $0 to over $1 million in revenue and my version of financial freedom in just 12 months. Now, this video is going to be more of like a storytelling type video. So if you don't think this will be helpful to you, or maybe you're further along in the journey than I am and you're not interested, feel free to click away. We'll jump back in with more tactical videos next week. But this week, I'm going to be doing a recap of my 2024. So let's jump right into it. We're going to go all the way back on the timeline to January of 2024. Now, if you know who I am, or if you don't know who I am, my name is Ryan, and in the past year, like I said, I've done over $1 million in revenue. I run 3 different businesses, all in the real estate realm, all things that I would not have told you I would be doing 12 months ago. So let's talk about what I was doing 12 months ago. At the beginning of January in 2024, my primary business was a partnership where I was wholesaling. And if you don't know, wholesaling real estate is basically going and finding distressed properties or distressed sellers and helping them out by getting it under contract and then finding somebody to buy the house so that they can sell it. And then me as the wholesaler is making a commission or a profit between what I buy it at and what I sell it at, right? So that's what I was doing in January. And I was kind of doing an interesting type of wholesaling because I 100% did creative wholesaling. So I was buying properties subject to, meaning we were taking over the existing mortgage and then we were reselling those properties, right? And on paper, it seemed great at first, which is true of most things in the world, right? And so on paper, it seemed great at first, and I was kind of going through the motions with it and honestly having success, right? I mean, I was just leaving an $80,000 a year engineering job, which is, you know, decent, but not crazy. Made about $5,000 a month. And between myself and my partner, we were having months where we were making $25,000, $30,000, right? And so, you know, the front end is like, oh my gosh, you know, the peak of thinking that something is better than it is. I've talked about the emotion curve before. That's where we were at. It was like, the world is our oyster, making money. This is awesome. And then, of course, comes the valley of despair, where I realized that that was not necessarily the case. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with wholesaling. People don't really like you in wholesaling. It's kind of sketchy sometimes, maybe not with everybody, but from what I had seen and experienced. And so that led me to January 2024. And in January, I was very much trying to figure out what the heck to do, because at the same time that I was wholesaling, I was also doing transactional funding, where I was funding deals for other wholesalers and other buyers in the real estate space. And what I was finding is that it was on and off. Some months were decent, and some months I didn't really make any money, but it was more enjoyable for me. It took up less time to do things, and I was working with what I would call like B2B. I was working with other businesses instead of B2C like wholesaling, where I'm working with people that are distressed, people that may not like me, people that are yelling at me on the phone, which by the way, I think is a good skill to have, to be able to handle that at some point in time. But it was way more enjoyable talking with other people that were, you know, entrepreneurs, business people, whatever, and funding their deals than trying to work with people that had no idea who I was and probably thought that I sucked in some form or fashion. And so that's where I was at in January. And a theme that you guys are going to find in this video as I continue to talk is the theme of being in the business of saying yes. My 2024 can be summarized in a lot of ways, but I think one of the best ones that I can think of is that I simply was in the business of saying yes. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So in January, I was feeling a little bit stuck, right? I was making money, but I wasn't enjoying it. And more importantly, and this is something that a lot of people miss, I think, I did not feel like I had a future doing what I was doing, right? And on the one side, you don't need to have a future doing what you're doing if you're making money that is essential for you to live, right? At that point, you need to just focus on survival. You got to make money so that you can pay the bills, right? But I'm incredibly blessed to say that that was not the position I was in at the time. And so I wasn't doing it for survival. I wanted to build something that I could grow, that I can enjoy, that I could do with other people. And I did not feel like wholesaling was anywhere near that. In fact, I didn't really feel like it was at first, and then I really felt like it wasn't as time went on. And so that's where I was at in January. I was feeling pretty stuck. I had an amazing partner in the wholesale business, incredible dude. And so I didn't know what to do, right? Didn't know what to do. And one of the things that I was kind of plotting at the time was I wanted to move to Phoenix. And if you don't know, I'm part of a mentorship called Sub 2, which is based in Phoenix. And so a lot of people that I met in that mentorship were out in Phoenix, and I was traveling to try and be more around them. At the time, I lived in Jacksonville, Florida. I had quit my job, so I went from being around people to basically just sitting in an office like this all day, every day, and not really having anybody that I was working with, building businesses with, etc. And so I was plotting to move to Phoenix. So that's setting the stage a little bit. Now, over the previous couple months, I'd met a lot of awesome people, people that were like myself, entrepreneurs, business people in the real estate realm. And in the beginning of January, I got invited to I guess you could call it like a mini mastermind, right? It was just a couple of guys that I knew that were getting together at an Airbnb for a weekend and just talking about business, talking about goals, all that good stuff. And this came at the same time that I was plotting to move to Phoenix, right? And so we had our house in Jacksonville. I was trying to figure out, like, what do we need to do to get this thing ready to try and rent it out? When are we going to move? Where are we going to move to? All that stuff, on top of trying to figure out, am I going to keep wholesaling? Should I do something else? Like, what do I do with this business, right? And so I initially had said no to going to that mini mastermind because it was not the best timing. It was right after the holidays. I was trying to figure out the move, all that good stuff. But that's the first instance of 2024 where I realized I'm not in the business of saying no. I'm in the business of saying yes and figuring the rest out along the way, right? And so within like a couple days of that event happening, I reached out and said, hey, I changed my mind. I'm going to book a flight out to Phoenix and I'm going to come out to the mini mastermind. And so I did exactly that. I went out there, amazing group of guys that I got to hang out with. And it was something I'd never really done before, is just talk business with people for multiple days. And, it's really easy to have a third person perspective, right? Like, I can sit and watch the Philadelphia Eagles play football every Sunday, and I know exactly what they're doing wrong, right? As some people can probably relate to. But I'm not the one that's out there actually doing it, right? It's easy for me to say that they should have gone and thrown a pass instead of run the ball on fourth down, or they should have kicked that field goal instead of going for it. It's easy for me to say because I'm just sitting here watching, right? I'm just a lame fan. It feels the same way sometimes with business where, I'm so ingrained in what I'm trying to do that I need other people to come in and look at what I'm doing and share their opinions and all that good stuff. And that's exactly what this was. So what we did was we just went on a whiteboard and wrote out everything that we were doing, our goals for the year, our aspirations, and kind of just laid it all out there for everyone else to pick apart, right? With love, but say, hey, you shouldn't be doing this, do more of this, this is working, this is not. And it was perfect for me because I knew I didn't want to wholesale, but I didn't know what to do about it because I had a partnership. We had people working for us, right? We had things going. That's not really something, at least for me, that I felt like I could just flip a switch and turn off, right? Like, that's a legitimate thing. And it was my first legitimate business that I was trying to run. So, what am I going to do? Shut that crap down? But basically, that's exactly what they said, right? We put the numbers. We looked at how much time I spent doing things, the things that I was enjoying, and they were like, you shouldn't be wholesaling at all. You need to shut that down and move into the transactional funding business full time. And long story short, because I had that outside input, I agreed and then started working towards what does it look like to get out of this business, to hand it off, and move on to other things. And so that was not, I wouldn't say a super smooth transition, but over the next couple weeks was able to transition out of that and move on to the next thing. And that's where things got pretty weird because my transactional funding business made decent money, but it doesn't take a lot of time. So I all of a sudden had this wholesale business that was taking up like 90% of my time, if not 95% of my time, gone, right? And this was in February 2024. Boom, it's gone. And so I'm like, okay, I've got all this time. What am I going to do with this time? Well, I want to grow my transactional funding business. I'm out, right? I'm free. I get to do what I want to do. And so I just looked at, okay, if I'm going to grow this business, what does that look like? And social media was the easy answer, because social media is something that takes a lot of time, not only to create, but also to get good at, right? I would say by no means am I good at social media, but I've gotten better, right? Through my practice and just reps, sheer volume. And so that was what I kind of jumped into more, was like, okay, how do I start doing more social media, posting on YouTube and other platforms, and just talking about what I'm doing. And, you know, a lot of people want to feel like they have this, like, oh, I've got my 1 year plan and my 5 year plan. And I personally don't do that crap. I just know the direction I want to head. And so, like, when it comes to this YouTube channel, you know, there's a lot of things that have happened that I'll talk about, but they weren't my intention. I just knew that the people I trusted, the people that were ahead of me, said, building a brand, talking about what you're doing, being authentic, right? All of these things, they're going to be important at some point, right? In the long run. And so as I'm spending all this time on YouTube and Instagram and other things, I didn't have like a game plan at all. I didn't have any game plan. I was just talking about what I was doing and figured, you know, I'm on the path that I have seen work for other people, and I'm going to figure out the opportunities that will present themselves as a part of being on that path, right? And so that was in February. Worked on that through March. In March, I started seeing a bunch of ads from Alex Hormozi, who I already loved, but now was consuming more of his content because I wanted to learn more about this game of business. And although I was making some money in the real estate game, I didn't know what the heck business was. I know plenty more now, but I still don't know a lot about business. And I was brand new. I was an engineer. So I was like, you know, electronics and stuff, not business. I didn't know anything about business. And he kept talking about this new investment that he had made called Skool. He was like, join Skool, build a community on Skool, blah, 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 blah. And I was super blessed to have already joined a mentorship the year before that cost a bunch of money that I never would have expected to do, where I had learned the power of community, right? Of not needing to know all the answers, but being able to figure out the answers along the way. And I had experienced that already. So when the opportunity presented itself to join the platform, I said, you know what? I would love to create a community for 2 reasons. And literally, this was my 2 reasons. Number one, Alex Hormozi told me to do it. Some of you might think that's lame. I don't really care. The people that I look up to, when they say to do something, I'm kind of like the jump and don't ask how high. Like, I just did it. They said do it, I do it. If it doesn't work, fine. I had enough time. I was incredibly blessed to have enough time to make that gamble and just be like, I'm just going to try it out and see how it works. So I jumped on the platform with no plan, literally 0 plan. If you go back and look, like I was throwing stuff out there. I was talking about freaking fitness and nutrition and, you know, whatever. No plan whatsoever. That's number one. Number two, I was starting to gain more traction in the funding business because not only was I making money, but I was talking more about it. And because of that, a lot of people were asking me, where are you finding deals? How are you structuring them? What does it look like to go from start to finish, right? All this stuff. And to be frank, I started getting so overwhelmed with the amount of people asking me those questions that I was like, man, this would be the perfect storm. Like, this was within a week. I joined Skool, and in like 2 days, within 2 days, I had made another post on social media that had gotten a ton of traction, and it literally clicked in my mind. I was like, I'm gonna take all these people and I'm gonna put them all in one place on Skool, and then I can answer one question for everybody at the same time, instead of trying to individually help every single person, because I was leaving people hanging because I didn't have the capacity to answer all their questions. It wasn't possible. And so I threw this thing together and got the community going with no plan. I was just like, I'm going to share what I know on here. And so, you know, I threw up like a webinar on the calendar, jumped on, was like, hey guys, I'm just going to talk about what I do because you guys seem interested, right? And then by the end of that training, they were like, well, tell us more about this. And I was like, okay, I'll do another training next week. I'll tell you more about that. Kept on and so forth, just kind of following the track that people were laying out for me. I wasn't sitting there like, this is my 1 year plan for how I'm going to make this community. No, it was like I woke up every day, I looked at what people wanted, and then I figured out how to give them what they wanted or find somebody who could. It was that sporadic. There was no pre-planning at all, right? And as I'm doing this community is free, right? And the big thing that Alex Hormozi was promoting was something called the Skool Games. And it was basically a competition to build a paid community on Skool. And when I saw that at first, I was like, well, first of all, that's a lot of responsibility. Second of all, I'd like to give everything that I do away for free because I don't need to make it paid. I've already learned this stuff and I would love to share it with other people. And so I was kind of going back and forth, like, do I do this Skool Games thing? Do I not do this Skool Games thing? And the tip of the iceberg for me was as I was giving everything away for free, and this is something that I've learned more and more throughout this year, as I was giving stuff away for free, people kept asking for more. They said, show us your systems. Can you JV with us and help us fund these deals? Can you put out more like detailed courses going through the contracts and all this stuff? And I was like, okay. So I started doing a little bit of that. And what I found was that people weren't bought in, right? So somebody would say, hey, Ryan, can you make a course on this? And I would go spend all this time trying to build something out only for that person to not really care. Why was that? Well, what I learned was that most people, not everybody, but a lot of people need to be invested in something monetarily in order to invest their time into that thing as well. This was something that I didn't really expect, but I learned along the way. And so I said, okay, it's seeming like, I'm putting in all this work and people aren't really respecting it because they're not actually bought in. They're buying into all of these other things. So maybe I will do the Skool Games and I'll put something together for the stuff that I can't put out there just to everybody, right? Like the details of my transactions and, bank account and HUDs and the stuff that you can't like just put out there super publicly. I was like, okay, let me throw this together. So in a very short amount of time, I threw that together. And then in May of 2024, I officially announced, kind of out of the blue, I didn't tell anybody I was going to do it, but I announced that I was making a second community on Skool that was going to be paid. At the time, it was called Financial Mastery. Just came up with that along the way as well. Threw that together, got a bunch of people in there. People were getting deals. It was fun. It was smaller, right? The smaller, tight-knit stuff is always nice, I would think. Or at least in my opinion. And so smaller, tight-knit, all that good stuff. And we were rocking and rolling. And I had zero expectations. Zero. Like, how am I supposed to know, being that new, who's going to want to pay me to teach them what I do? In my head, I was like, if 10 people do, that would be awesome. Like, what a fun little group of people for me to work with and really grow the businesses with. But crazy enough, it wasn't just 10 people. I don't remember the exact amount of people that joined in that month. I want to say it was just over 100 people, which is crazy to think about. And so, short story long, in the most competitive month in Skool Games history up to that point, I was able to win the Skool Games against people that had big followings and businesses that already existed and all this other stuff. And also, funny enough, everybody else that won had a team. Like, they had people working with them, right? And I was just by myself. My wife didn't even know what I was doing. I was just flying by the seat of my pants and believing that I could do things even though I didn't know how I was going to do it. Like, when I set my sights on winning the Skool Games, I thought I knew, it ended up being even more, but I thought I knew how much money I would have to make in order to even be competitive, and I was off on that number, but I had no clue how I was going to make that number. But what I did was I just started going, right? I just started bringing people in. I started looking at what other people were doing and trying to copy the things that I thought I could do on my own, or that I could make better or make my own or whatever. And I just kept going. And I did that for the whole month of May. It was one of the most stressful months of my life because there's a live leaderboard, so I can see myself moving up, down, left, right, all around the entire time. And somehow I came up with some crazy offers. I gave a bunch of stuff away. I did everything I knew how to do in my very minimal understanding of business. And I was able to win the Skool Games, which was crazy. I got 8th out of the top 10 win, and I got 8th. And there was people making just crazy amounts of money. But the fact that I was able to place top 10 at the time was like my first real like business feat, I guess, or accolade. I don't know what you want to call it, but it was a big deal for me. Only a few people had ever won this, and I was one of them, which is crazy. But the bigger deal for me, even though making money was cool, was A, everything that I learned along the way, and B, the people that I knew I was going to get to meet because of winning this. And that's another common theme for my 2024 is that the more cool stuff you do, the more you level up and get to meet other cool people that are doing even cooler stuff, using a lot of the word cool there. But that's exactly what happened. So the following month, I was able to fly. Actually, I think I drove. At the same time that we were doing this, the Skool games, right when the Skool games ended, my wife and I packed up my truck and moved to Phoenix. So lots going on, right? Then when we got to Phoenix, right after I got to Phoenix, I drove to Las Vegas to the acquisition.com headquarters for the essentially like the mastermind that you got to be a part of as part of winning the Skool games. And when I was there, I mean, you can picture I'm meeting these people that are making way more money than me, that are way smarter than me, that actually understand business, and I'm just forming relationships with these people. I'm just learning, observing what they're doing and saying, how they act, how they operate, what they do and don't do in their business, all this stuff, asking questions, whatever I can think of. And it was just an amazing opportunity that I had to be a part of. Now this is going to sound overwhelming, and it was, to be fair. But at the same time that I was doing that, we reached a partnership with a software, which I should go back a little bit. When I was wholesaling, because of my engineering background and just liking technology, I made some tools to try and make our wholesale process just like faster. And they were on Google App Script, so I was like writing code and basically automating the process of finding good leads for my team to call, right? And somebody else in my mentorship was building a slightly different tool that we saw as an opportunity to integrate the two together, thought they would fit in really well. So we integrated the two, and then that was a while back. And then about 6 months later, we had the opportunity to then merge that business with our mentor and have him be kind of the one that promoted the business, right? And talked about it and brought people in to use the product. And so we officially turned that in from a hobby into a business that same month. This was in June of 2024. And so now I had 3 businesses, which, to be fair, people talk about focus. I wouldn't say I nailed that. I was doing my best, flying by the seat of my pants, trying to figure things out. But I now had my actual transactional funding business. Then I had this new Skool community that I was just getting started figuring out. And then I had this new software business as well, right? So all of these 3 things are kind of running in unison. So after that mastermind in Las Vegas, a couple more things happened. First of all, I decided that Phoenix was way too hot. We decided, my wife and I together, and we were like, all right, we got to get out of this place. Way too hot. Got to go. So we packed up our truck and rented out the house that we had just bought in Phoenix. And my wife quit her job, which was a huge milestone. So now we had both been able to quit our jobs. We were running these 3 businesses. Crazy times. And we jumped in our truck and we drove to California. Better weather. There's very good surfing, which was my goal. The Skool headquarters was in California, which was one of our first kind of leading things that we went and did. And then also I had friends on the coast in San Diego. And so we traveled over there, met a bunch of new people, learned a bunch of new things. And as we were over in California, I was kind of trying to stabilize these 3 businesses, right? We had the software getting up and running, the Skool community that I was like, I've just won the Skool games. I have no idea what the direction of this is. I just want to help people and figure out how to do it as effectively as possible. And then my actual funding business, all of those kind of trying to stabilize, right? And this is July and August. That's what I was doing, stabilizing those things. We were living in our truck. So I don't think I have any pictures I can throw up on the screen, but we got a topper for my F-150, put a bed in the back, and we were just living in the truck. A lot of people probably think that sounds crazy. My wife and I used to live in a Sprinter van before this, so it is kind of up our wheelhouse a little bit more than most people. The weather was beautiful. We were living at the beach. Hard to complain. So we were living on our truck, stabilizing the businesses. And, it's interesting. Business doesn't have a lot of recognized achievements, really. You kind of just are on your own. You find people to do business with, learn from, and you just go do it, right? But the Skool games was one of the rare opportunities to actually get recognized for doing something successfully. But funny enough, after that, as I was stabilizing, really not 100% sure what I was trying to do with everything, the opportunity came out to do a private cohort with Alex Hormozi. And basically, he announced that he was going to have 100 people chosen from applications to be a part of a special cohort where he's going to work on amplifying your business as much as possible in 90 days. And that opportunity presented itself, and I applied. Again, no real plans as to what I was going to do. I just applied because that's what I figured I should be doing, and applied to that. And a couple weeks went by. I feel like maybe over a month went by. There was thousands of people that applied. I don't even know the final number, but thousands of people applied to be a part of this cohort. They were only choosing 100. And I found out on, I want to say, September 17th of 2024 that I have been selected as one of those 100 people. And this was not something I wanted to take lightly. It was a very, very small pool of people that were selected. We were going to be getting, by the way, it was free, right? For free, we were going to be getting private business coaching with Alex Hormozi, Andrew Kirby, an amazing dude, and then a guy named Victor, who worked with Kirby and Hormozi, who is a sales genius. And we were going to be getting all of that private coaching for free. And so Haley and I had discussed, if this became an opportunity, what would we do? Well, I would want to just eliminate all other distractions and just go all in on this one thing for the 90 days. And so we got selected on September 17th. The cohort started on September 20th and ended on December 20th, right? And so on September 17th, we were literally given 2 days notice for the start of this thing. Basically, you're going to get into this private cohort. We want you to push as hard as you can to grow your business as much as you can in 90 days. And so we had some plans to potentially travel or try out some different cities, go back to the East Coast, go international. We had all these plans, canceled them all. Found an office space in San Diego, shared with my good friend Sam, who has been an incredibly gracious host to us. And we basically hunkered down in this office for 90 days. And just like everything that you've seen so far, this was me just saying yes to something with absolutely no clue how I was going to go about it. No game plan, didn't know how I was going to pull it off, but I knew it was something I wanted to do, and I knew it was an opportunity that I would never, ever get again in my life. And that's being presented with those opportunities. You can't say no. You just can't say no to them because you're never going to have that opportunity again. And I knew that. And so we hunkered down and we worked 14 to 16 hour days every single day. We did not take Saturdays and Sundays off. We did not take a day off. We did that for 90 days straight. And again, no real game plan, but just listening to what people were saying. We were getting private coaching, looking at how can we build our business even more? How can we make more money? How can we help more people? How can we get better results for them, right? This is all stuff that I was learning. And again, not a business background dude right here, right? So I was figuring out like, what the heck is sales? How do you hire people? What does success even look like? We started running ads for the first time, which like, how the heck does that even work? I still haven't really figured that one out. So all these moving parts, no real plan, but I knew that it was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. And so as we're going through those 90 days, I mean, pretty brutal. 90 days, we're working every day, long hours. It was a grind. And you know, you get to the end of week 1, you get to the end of week 2, and it's like, oh, okay, it's been 14 days, 76 more to go, right? Like there's a lot of days. But what I did know is this, and this was true when I won the Skool games. This has been true in all the stuff that I've tried, whether it was on sports teams in high school and college, whatever it was. I have never been the best at what I did. I've never been the best. I wasn't the best player on the basketball team. I wasn't the best player on the baseball team. I wasn't the smartest kid in my class. None of that stuff. I've always been able to achieve highly, but like not at the top, right? And so when I saw the people that were in this cohort, keep in mind this is a business competition. It's about making money fundamentally. I knew I don't want to say for a fact, but pretty much I knew for a fact that I was not going to be able to be at the very top of this competition. I was not going to be able to get first place. I was still just too new. And I don't want to say, I didn't believe in myself, but I recognized the reality that there was people that were well further along in their journey in the business game, right, than I was. And I recognized that right off the bat. I knew that that was going to be the case. And so I looked at that and I said, okay, if these people are going to beat me, right, what can I do to stand out from the crowd other than be the best at making money? Because I know I'm not the best at that. What can I do? And I thought about that. I didn't have a lot of time to think about it. I had a few days, but I truly spent those days thinking about that. And what I came up with was, what can I control? I can't necessarily control how much money other people make. I can control, to a sense, how much I make, but also, there's a lot of variables involved. But what I can control is showing up every single day and being more consistent than anybody else. I can do that. And I knew I had put myself intentionally in a position to do that. I had found this office space. We had eliminated distractions. We didn't really know anybody. We were in San Diego, California. Didn't really know anybody there. Didn't have any close friends. Didn't have anything planned for those 90 days. So I knew that I could outwork and be more consistent than anybody else in that competition. And so we had this community for the cohort, right? And what I decided I wanted to do was every day, I was going to track my metrics that they had laid out for us. And then I was going to post a video breaking down what I had done for that day, every day, right? So at the end of day one, I said, hey guys, this is day one of our 90-day challenge. Here's what I did today. Here's what I learned. Here's the mistakes that I made, blah, 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 blah. Every night I did that. Day 2, day 3, day 4. For 90 days straight, I posted in that community every single day. I did not miss a single night. And I also did not take a single day off of working, which goes hand in hand, because if I got to the end of the day and I didn't do anything that day, then I wouldn't have anything to talk about, right? And so even though I didn't win at the end of that 90 days, spoiler alert, I didn't get at the very, very top of that competition. I was able to out-consistent everybody else in that competition through doing what I actually could control and just showing up every day. And because of that, I was able to make a name for myself where everybody knew who I was. Everybody knew what I was doing. People were able to take my strategies and use them on their own. And multiple people said that they were able to make more money because of the strategies that I had tried and shared with them, which is an amazing feeling. And I was able to do all of that for 90 days in a row without stopping. And by the end, not only did that consistency give me more exposure to people who then wanted to help me in my business and ended up helping me get 6th out of 100 people in this business competition, where again, the top 10 people were the quote winners. And I was able to get 6th out of 100 people, which is insane to think about. Again, with no clue how I was going to make the money and no clue how I was going to out-earn all these amazing people. But I was still able to not only succeed and win in this competition for the second time this year with no pre-planning, but I was also able to do it consistently, share it with other people, and find a way to stand out in a different way than other people had. And it was all because we had said yes to something that, again, no clue how I was going to pull it off. I did not know anything really about business up to that point, and yet we were able to jump in. So that was the entire last 90 days of 2024. That went from September 20th to December 20th, right before Christmas. We were doing that, no days off, nothing like that, and we're able to win that competition. And what a crazy year it's been, because as I got to the end of 2024 and I look back, we did, across those 3 businesses, I think it was 1.2 or $1.3 million in revenue. Crazy, right? Remember, 2023, I was still working my engineering job, $80,000 salary. I was making $5K a month, right? At the end of 24, we hit multiple 6-figure months, which is crazy. Multiple 6-figure months doing these businesses that I was enjoying, that I was learning from. And in the process, I can't even begin to describe the amount of people I met on that journey, all because I was achieving. I was doing and achieving, right? I spent multiple full days with Alex Hormozi in person, having conversations with him. I spent multiple days with Sam Ovens, the founder of Skool and CEO of Skool, and also the founder of other businesses that he's sold in the past. An amazing, interesting dude. Tons of time with Andrew Kirby, right? Tons of time with Victor. All these amazing people that are so far ahead of me, but I was able to spend time with them because I didn't just ask, right? I didn't just try to take things from them. I achieved first. I went and did things that I was proud of and that other people could see, and I accomplished those things, and then other people were able to see that and know, hey, this dude's got the drive, he's got the willpower, he's got the consistency to perform even when he's not, as capable of a business person as some of these people that have been in business for longer, or they've got higher grossing businesses or whatever it may be. I was still able to perform in those scenarios because of the steps that I took along the way. And so as I sit here in January of 2025, looking back on 2024, I can say with confidence, I did not plan anything that happened this year. None of it. First and foremost, every single day, I just pray that God will open the doors for me to do the things he wants me to do. And more importantly, I pray that he slams shut the doors for the things that he doesn't want me to do. And it's so hard looking forward to know what that'll look like, but it's so easy to look back and see how it happened, right? We started living in Jacksonville, we moved to Phoenix, we ended up in California. I started wholesaling, I moved to funding, built a community, got all of these other businesses. I met amazing people, I won multiple awards, right? All of these crazy things happened as a result of just taking action and doing these things every single day. And so a lot of people, that I talk to say, well, I don't know what direction I'm headed in. I don't know what business is right for me. I don't know what makes the most sense. Nobody does. I didn't, you don't, and nobody does either. What matters is that you do something and you don't stop, and then you follow the paths and the opportunities that present themselves as a result of that action, right? I did not know that I would be quitting wholesaling at the beginning of the year. I did not know I would be doing funding full time. I didn't know that I would be on Skool. I didn't know that I would have a software business, but I did know, I truly believed, because I saw other people, and this is a big one for me, the belief that I can do things even without knowing exactly what it'll look like. I saw other people that were doing what I wanted to do, that had the freedom to travel, that were making money, that were having fun, that were in the business realm. I saw those people and I said, if they can do it, I can too. I don't know what it looks like, but I know that I can do it too in some form or fashion. And I believed that enough that I made that a reality. And I want to leave you with that, because as I look back on this year, for those of you that maybe are in a position that I was, or in a similar position 12 months ago, right? And you can look at where I'm at now and you can start to envision where you're going to be at now. You're like, yeah, but I don't have a lot of time. I'm busy with work, family obligations, all these other things, whatever it might be. I don't know how I'm going to do it. That doesn't matter. You'll never know how you're going to do it. The only thing that matters is that you believe that you can, and then you start and you don't stop. And if you can just do those things, you will not fail. You will do 10 times more than you ever imagine you can possibly do. And most importantly, as you're on that journey, find other people to keep you accountable and support you along the way. Because I didn't expect to meet the people, befriend the people, and accomplish the things that I did in 2024. I did not know what it would look like, but I did believe that I was going to be able to achieve great things. And I know in 2025, it's going to look even crazier. So I hope that gives you some encouragement and motivates you to say yes to something that might be a little bit uncomfortable, to say yes to something that's going to be a little more stressful than just sitting on the couch every evening and watching TV, to say yes to doing the things that are going to have the greatest chance of changing your life, even if the downside might be holding you back and giving you a worse position for a little bit, because it's uncomfortable, because it's hard, because you might lose some money along the way. Oh, by the way, I've lost over 6 figures in actual cash money this year with the mistakes that I made, but I had to make those mistakes so that I could learn from them and get to the next steps. And so again, I hope this has been an encouragement to you guys. If you made it this far, shout out to you, because I know this was a long story, but hopefully it has been helpful and motivated you. And I'm just so excited for what's next this year, for the business opportunities, for the people I'm going to meet, for the people that hopefully I can help by sharing my story, sharing the tactics and techniques and all of the lessons that I've learned along the way. If you haven't already, make sure you hit a like on this video and subscribe to this channel, because the next video that I'm going to be putting out is breaking down the principles that I used in my businesses to take them from zero to over $1.2 million in revenue this year alone. You should check that out next week. I'm super excited to get that one out for you guys. Thank you so much and have an incredible 2025.